crafty people, this is Ellen with EGI Designs. Today I'm coming to you with an anniversary card that I just made for my husband. As I was starting to make it, I decided to record the footage. I didn't do it as a tutorial, so I thought that I would do it as a voiceover. And it's not entirely my most favorite cup of tea, so if you could bear with me, that would be awesome. Anyway, let's just jump right in. What I'm doing is I'm going to be better pressing the script text plate from Lisa Horton Crafts onto this little piece of paper that I had cut out from the Simple Stories Simple Vintage Love Story paper and sticker set. So right now you see me trying to line it up perfectly on that little piece. The bottom of the script plate was getting in the way of the magnets on the bottom, so I needed to kind of scooch that up and readjust and all of that. I wanted it to look like a letter, so that's kind of what I was going with there. So I'm going to ink this up with the Distress Oxide in Vintage Photo. And the cool thing about the BetterPress is as long as you keep everything in the same place, you can repress it, which I will actually do with this 2 times. Right now I'm just wiping off the bottom because I didn't want to get that all over the lid of that. So I'm just going to run that through my die cut machine. And magic, here we are again. And there you can see the script. It was a little bit blotchy. I didn't get good coverage with when I put the ink on. So I'm going to give that another shot. Yeah, so as long as you make sure you don't rotate the lid or anything, you can just go right ahead and redo the better pressing. And I love this new script from Lisa Horton. It's beautiful for a press plate. Alright, so I'm happy with this. I want to turn this into a like a little torn piece of like a little letter. So the background, the pink piece you see there is going to be the back panel, and now I'm trying to figure out how much do I need to cut off for this to be able to go on a diagonal and fit there. I did receive, these are the new Spellbinders Torn Edges die, and I did receive those from Spellbinders to try out. So I really like this notebook die. I think that looks really cool. So that's our first step to making this look like a torn page. So now I need to figure out how much do I need to cut off from the top and the bottom to kind of center that up a little bit in the middle. I'm just eyeballing it. So the set actually has the notebook edge, but then it has kind of 2 torn, you know, what you would think of as a torn edge. So, and each of those are different tear patterns. So I ran that through the top and the bottom. So now we're looking a little bit more like a torn notebook piece. And I'm still messing with it, trying to figure out how much do I need to cut off of the right side there. So I go ahead and do that. And now we have our torn piece, and it's the size that I wanted to fit on there, because I really wanted to do it on a diagonal, but that means that you need to cut it back quite a bit. Alright, now I'm taking the Tim Holtz Distresser tool. I think it's called a thread cutter, distresser, something like that. I will link everything that I used in the description box. I do have affiliate links. I encourage you to use what you have, but if anything today piques your interest, all that information will be there. So I distressed that all and still adjusting, looking as I'm going. And now I'm just going to use Distress ink in the vintage photo. And just gonna ink up all of the edges of all of the pieces to give that kind of vintagey distressed look. And it helps it pop off of the paper too, since you get that darker edge, and it just adds a lot of visual interest. Alright, so that's all set. We have that. We're looking very old and vintagey and lovely at this point. Alright, now I'm cutting the card base. I cut the card base and now we're doing the scoring. This is on my Spellbinders trimmer and scorer, which I really love. And I use the edge on the left there to line up the edges of the card. I'm getting my bone folder and burnishing the score on that. And I cut this in Spellbinders cream cardstock, and that's an older color, but it matches perfectly with this. And I'm gonna add some of that vintage photo to the edges of the front here too, so it doesn't look so stark. And I had thought I was going to use some really wide tape to put on the little letter piece, but I decided to go with a different, I went with the Big Mama foam tape instead. I didn't want a lot of lift on that, and the Big Mama foam tape I think is 1/16 for a loft, so it's very, very low loft, but just adds a little interest. And you can see how it makes that look like it's popping off the page there. I love to use, I have a vinyl weeding tool that I use to take the backs off, which I love it. And then we're going to put a little bit of glue on the foam tape, give us a little wiggle room. And we'll get that stuck on the front. I think that looks really sweet. Alright, now I'm checking out the sticker pack, trying to figure out if there's anything that we should put on there or not, and I decided against that at that time. But one of the cut aparts in the paper kit caught my eye, and it's the pin with the Sew in Love. So I used my trimmer and cut off the branding strip and then kind of cut around, you know, the columns, just so I didn't hurt any of the other pictures on that. So I got that all cut out. I'm trying to figure out how to make this work. And I fiddle, and I fiddle, and I fiddle. Good thing I cut all that out. It was like an hour of fiddling. No, I'm just kidding. But when you're making things in real time and you're just kind of playing around, you do take a long time to get things in the right spot. So I'm just taking my scissors, and I decided to cut that apart because it was a very, very big picture. I thought it would be easier to do the layout if I could cut them apart and maybe layer them up a little bit, make it a little bit smaller on the front, because I thought it took up a little bit too much real estate on there. So I'm just fiddling, trying to make this work. And then I decided I'm going to distress the edges of that, and I do make it a little bit smaller. More distress. And I like that a lot better. I felt that matched the style. So now I'm trying to figure out the layout. again. Like, never ending process on this one here. I just couldn't get it how I liked it. So after I have all the distressing done, I decided that I wanted to add the vintage photo to the edges of those little cut apart pieces, just to kind of tie it all in, and to make it look, you know, less stark and make sure everything is cohesive. We got that all set. And more fiddling with this. I don't know. I wanted to make this work so bad. And then I finally, I think, settled on it. So I'm gonna glue this little pinned piece. It's kind of hard to see, but it's like a pin with a little charm on the side is the picture that's on there. So I glued that one flat to the front. And then the strip, I wanted to layer, so I used 1/4 inch foam tape for that. And I think that one's from scrapbook.com. And then put that over that little pinned piece. So, and then finally I was happy with the layout. So, thank goodness for that. I was trying to figure out, what do I want to add to this? It looked like it was missing something. So I brought in one of the stickers from the sticker pack, and it was really white, so I used just the ink that was on my brush, just to kind of vintage that up a little bit. And then I was trying to find the right spot for that, and then added that to the top. So I think that looks really cute. So it looks like everything's done with the layout for that. And now I'm bringing in the Lisa Horton Crafts Bronze Metallic ink. And I wanted to do a little bit of ink splattering on the front. I thought the bronze would add, you know, a nice touch without being in your face. It's got that, it's sort of like a dark gold grungy color, so I thought it would really tie it all together really well. And I just have a like a flour sack cloth, and I'm using my bone folder to tap against so that I can get the little splatters on the front of the card. And then once that was done, I thought, oh hey, I have a lot of ink left, let's ink splatter on the inside. Just added a little bit of extra visual interest to the inside of the card. And then I didn't want it to go to waste, so I ink smushed what I had left, and then I was like, oh, I want to make a panel, so a little more ink, and swipe that all up. And I love having a glass mat because you can just do that so easily, and it's very easy to clean up. Alright, so now I'm gonna cut the inside panel, and I think it was 3 3/4 by 5. Yeah. And I'm going to use the bronze to edge that inside panel, just to kind of tie that together. And I just have a jumbo dauber, and I'm just doing the edges. I think it kind of gives it like a old book look. You remember how they used to have the metallic edges on like dictionaries and stuff? So I think it kind of looks like that. So now I'm trying to figure out, do I want to use a sentiment from the stickers, or what do I want to do with that? Or do I want to use a tag? or do I want to use one of the stamps? Kind of go through many thoughts. So I grab a few of the stickers on here and make a little saying. I thought that was cute for a little detail on the inside. And then I want to figure out how can I decorate this panel. So one thing I like to do for the inside of cards is use a strip of the paper to kind of add a little bit more detail in there. So this is from the branding strip, and I'm just going to use my tape runner and put that on the inside just to give a little more interest. And just use my scissors to cut that off. So now I am going to use the Holding Your Heart BetterPress plates, and this is from Dina Wakely. And these are really awesome because you get 2 plates and you get 1 die, and the die will cut out all of the sentiments at once from that 1 plate. So you can build a lot of sentiments really quickly. So I'm doing my trick where I use the lid to pick up the paper, and I do have temporary adhesive on the lid, so that's how that helps keep that in place there. So I was going to use the Oxide, but then I decided that I would use the Metallic Bronze. Just inking that up, and it is a squishy pad, so I'm trying to be really gentle and not like squish it down so the ink doesn't come flying out of there. I'll make a big mess. Alright, so run that through my die cut machine. And I love the way these sentiments look. I love any kind of like type font. That's just one of my favorites, so this is a great set. Because this is a metallic ink, I did put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on there to clean that up, and that can really help. And then after that I spray some water on there to clean up if there's any alcohol residue. So now I'm just running this through my die cut machine. And like I said, it will cut out all of them at once. So it's fabulous. And then I just take the extras and put them in the packaging. But if you had like a little organizer, you could do that too. So I'm just checking them out, seeing which one I wanted to use. That one, You Are Simply Wonderful. I love that. So again, to tie that in, that I'm doing the edging in the bronze, whatever was left on the dauber, just so it didn't look as stark. And then I think that we needed a little bit more, so I grabbed another one of those hearts and used the distressed ink on that. And stuck that on there, and then I'm just gonna glue the sentiment on. I can't stand how much I love that type font. Ugh. I hope they make more plates of that. So we got that stuck on. And I'm just using a little temporary adhesive to put it in the card so that we can get an idea. I'll use, once I fill everything out and write it, I will put it in with better adhesive. Okay, we have finished our project for the day. Come join me over on Facebook where I post cards, videos, and any crafty sales I come across. I have a brand new blog, so come see me over there, and I am on Pinterest now. If you aren't already a subscriber, I would love it if you could hit that button and become a subscriber, and we would love to have you in our crafty community, and I appreciate all of you. Alright, until next time, like, subscribe, and all that jazz, and have an amazing day. Bye-bye. Here are a couple more videos I thought you might like. Thanks so much for watching.